Let's talk about tactical LARPing for a few minutes. LARPing stands for live action role playing, and it's done in a variety of different themes and subjects and such. And a lot of the times, people will refer to the milsim community as LARPing. The folks that dress up in gear and they go have airsoft matches or they pose for pictures and stuff like that. And it's a term that's thrown a lot in the community. It's thrown around a lot. And sometimes it's used as an insult. And I just wanted to talk about that real quick. So, and I've been guilty of this myself as far as judging other people over the years. It's something that I've had to come to terms with and kind of grow and mature a little bit myself over time. And it's easy when you're in this type of hobby or you have this type of knowledge, the whole so-called tactical field, whether it's shooting, in a self-defense environment or hunting or, if you have military experience or law enforcement experience or what have you, it could be easy to judge others who are wearing gear, whether it's tactical gear or whatnot, and maybe they're not doing it completely correctly. Or, for example, they're in the milsim community and they have all kinds of high-speed gear on to include helmets with either real or fake NVGs and all kinds of load-bearing vests and all kinds of different stuff. The pants, the drop leg holsters, the fancy airsoft rifles, all that good stuff. Sometimes we tend to poke fun at them and say, well, you're just playing, you're not the real thing, I'm better than you. And I think we all have to realize that comes from a place of ego when we do that. It's no different than when the so-called FUD community out there looks at people with AR-15s such as this or whatnot and say, well, what do you need that many rounds for? I can take a deer with just one shot and this and that and the other thing. It comes from a place of ego. And when you start doing things from a place of ego, more often than not, it's a negative result is going to come. You're not going to get anything positive out of it. And it's just something that I think would be better off if we didn't do. I've had to learn my lesson that, I used to do that when I was younger. I'm only 42 years old, and I look back at my 20s and 30s, and I'm like, okay, yeah, I matured a little bit. And before you are critical of somebody that is, in your definition, LARPing, and one example that has come to light is like T-Rex Arms. He's on YouTube, he's on Instagram, he has a holster company, and he does accessories as well, and he has tons of shooting videos. He's real popular, and he's a pretty fast shooter. But a lot of people tell him, hey, you've never served in the military, never did this, never did that. You're just role-playing and all that good stuff. And I credit the dude for trying to make gear and such more mainstream. If you ask me, hey, do you think civilians should have the same gear as the military? My answer is yes. That's the way the Second Amendment was written. That's the way it was intended. There shouldn't be any limitations. That's just the way it is. Some people may disagree with me, and that's fine. That's the beautiful thing about this country is you have the right to disagree. So that's perfectly fine. But yes, I do think civilians should have the same gear as the military. So, and as law enforcement as well. So, he's one example. And I encourage, if you find yourself doing that, if you find yourself looking at somebody and saying, oh, you're just a wannabe or you're a tactical LARPer or whatnot, stop. My humble advice is to, stop for a second and think, number one, isn't it great to live in a country where you can do that sort of thing and not have to worry about it? And number two, what can you do if that person is doing maybe something wrong? Let's say it's somebody at a shooting range and they have some tactical gear on, but it's kind of messed up in how it's presented. What could you do to make that more of a positive interaction? If the person is open for some advice, can you give some good advice? Like, hey, here, that's great gear. I like your load bearing vest, or I like this, or I like your pack, or I like your drop leg, but hey, maybe you need to raise your drop leg a little bit. It might help you out with your draw stroke a little bit better. It might prove to be a little bit more comfortable when you're running around. If they're not open to advice, then don't worry about giving it. The beautiful thing is, we're free. And if somebody wants to run around on their own volition and wear all the gear and wear it in the way they want to wear it, let them. It's their right. Bottom line is, it's better to just shut your mouth and let the person enjoy their rights, and you go off and enjoy your rights and just leave it at that, versus trying to create a negative type contact. Just be careful. And with that in mind, if you're dealing with somebody that has a bad attitude and whatnot and is just acting like a jerk towards others, you're not really addressing what he or she is wearing or equipped with. You're more addressing the attitude. So that's kind of a different thing. I know there's a ton of people out there at various ranges who they just have an ego and they think they're the hottest thing out there. And they have the best gear, best setups, all that good stuff. I see it at gun shops a lot. And if I was to address that, I would more want to address their attitude, not their chosen gear. As far as the whole combat effectiveness thing, don't worry about it. In all honesty, if you're in a field like the military, if you're in a combat MOS or something, you worry about you and your teammates and your crew, right? You want to make sure your crew is working together and you're combat effective. If you're in law enforcement, you want to make sure that yourself, you are combat effective. You can handle fights on the street. You can do what you need to be doing. Your partners, your other agencies that you may be working with, yeah, I can see worrying about them and that being a focus. But why do you care about somebody random either online or at a range? You shouldn't. You really shouldn't. If the person likes, is receptive to a little bit of help, then yeah, there's no problem with that. There's no problem with that at all. But if they're not receptive, hey, wish them a good day and hope they have all kinds of fun and just go back to doing what you're doing. You don't need to worry about it. I think in this country, a lot of the time, what we lose, especially on the internet, we have the whole free speech thing, and that's wonderful, and I hope that never, ever goes away. But I think we sometimes have the freedom to be quiet, and we don't, me included. I've had to learn that myself. Sometimes there's times when you just got to be quiet. To just not say anything, to just stay in your lane. Just be like, hey, it's not important in the grand scheme of things. There's more important things to worry about in life. So just keep that in mind. There are people out there who take the whole tactical thing really serious, and that's fine. And there's people out there who do it just for a hobby. They think it's cool. And you know what? That is awesome. That is totally awesome. There's nothing wrong with that. If a person wants to spend tens of thousands of dollars to be a milsim community member, go out there and do, airsoft matches and milsim games and all that good stuff, dude, that's awesome. I think that's great. Nothing wrong with it. If they want to buy gear just for the purposes of taking pictures for Instagram, who cares? In the end, it doesn't really matter. Let them be them, you be you. Everybody has their own motivation. And again, if somebody wants to be super serious and this is a life or death skill and that's all they want to focus on, that's perfectly fine too. Good deal. Bottom line, I think myself, I'll call myself out here on this. I've been judgmental in the past, and it's something that I've had to learn. And I'm just hoping that maybe this video, some people can look at it and go, oh, okay, I get it. Our egos are very hard to put aside. It's a rough thing. And I still have problems sometimes putting my ego aside. It'll pop up every now and again, and I have to tell myself, all right, how can I be better and not let this get in the way? So it's kind of a growth process. Maybe when I'm 80, 90 years, I'll get it right. Who knows? But in any case, don't worry too much about lambasting other people, because in the end, it's all it is you're feeding the ego, and you're trying to knock somebody else down and boost yourself up in the process, which is wrong. I look at things, and whenever I see stuff on the internet from popular people, I'm trying my best to take what I can from them. For example, the T-Rex Arm Kid, very successful young dude, and he has a lot of gear, a lot of cool toys, a lot of firearms. He does a lot of, running around and shooting videos and stuff, and the kid is fast, and he's accurate. He's very skilled at what he does. If you look at those videos, take that away. He knows how to set up gear pretty good as well. Take that away. Look at that stuff and go, oh, okay. What can you do? What instead of finding something wrong or something to focus on, look at the things done right, and pick and choose from that. From different firearms instructors as well. Look at that stuff and go, hey, I could use it. I could use that. Is there something that I could use? And if it's an opponent you're looking at, for example, if you're, I'll say it right now, I'm not a fan of Antifa. I'm not. It's a terrorist organization, in my opinion. It is. And it's not the only one. There's a lot of other local terrorist organizations out there that I don't like. But for the sake of this video, I'll talk about Antifa. I've seen a lot of videos of them doing their self-defense training and using some firearms and stuff. There are some issues, but you know what? I will never go on one of their videos and say, yeah, your stuff's screwed up and this is why. Because why would I want to help my opponent out? Never interrupt your opponent when they're in the middle of making a mistake. Just leave it alone. You can look at it, maybe with you and your buddies, you can go, oh, look at this, it's kind of funny. Leave it alone. So you can look at it that way also. It's up to you. So anyway, peace, love, all that hippie stuff, there's nothing wrong with it. It's better, especially right now, that we come together as a community. And I view, honestly, all the firearms folks out there, I view that as one community. And at the same time, the MilSim community, the reenactor community, all those communities, I view them same as a firearms community. We're all one big community. The self-defense guys, the blade guys, the jiu-jitsu dudes, hand-to-hand, all that stuff, we're all one. And I think if we just learn from each other and, made friends and whatnot, we'll probably find that, hey, this person that I thought was a so-called tactical LARPer or whatnot is actually a really cool dude with some cool contacts. Awesome guy. You might even learn something from him or her. Yeah, depending on who you're talking to. You never know. So anyway, enough yammering out of me. Feel free to leave comments, and I hope you kind of got the gist of this video. Yeah, sometimes there's some silly stuff out there, and yeah, it deserves a chuckle every now and again, but don't be too critical, in my opinion. Just kind of look at it. Take what you can from it. If you want to help the person out, if they're receptive to it, go for it. If they're not, then you know what? Leave them alone. Let them be them, you be you. All right, thanks a lot for watching, and as always, stay safe and stay sane.